It's a big day in the country's courts, especially this court case, the trial of 5 men accused of killing Senzo Meyiwa, continuing in the High Court in Pretoria. Forensic officer Thabo Mosia, who collected evidence from the crime scene, is on the witness stand. Now, to remind you, all of the men accused of the 2014 murder of the former Orlando Pirates goalkeeper have pleaded not guilty. Slendelo Masakane is still on that story for us, covering it in court today as well. Hello to you, Slee. So 2 big issues we need to talk about. One is the witness we're expecting today. But let's just go back to yesterday. A lot of talk around this production company, 1010 Productions, if I have it right, and the series that they're filming for Netflix. That came up in court yesterday as well. Just remind us what came of that.
Well, essentially, Gareth, we spent most of the court day hearing the submissions by the defense in terms of their issue with the presence of 1010 Films, which has been commissioned to produce basically a docu-series of the Senzo Meyiwa murder. In fact, 5 episodes of that docu-series aired a couple of days before the trial was supposed to start. And this is the premise in which the defense then brought their issues to the court on, saying that the timing of that documentary was for them quite untoward and prejudicial to their clients, saying that it cast aspersions on their innocence and their guilt, because the docu-series was going into detail in terms of what could possibly come out in terms of evidence against the accused, who they are, the role players, what particularly happened on that night, who was at the crime scene, as well as the officials involved in trying to get the matter to where we are today. So the defense then made these submissions, but not actually bringing in a formal application. So 1010 Films then did have their own lawyer in court to speak on their behalf, saying that they did nothing illegal. They had applied to be in courts like all media houses. In fact, what Advocate Marisa Latifo for Accused 1 to 4 was saying was that 1010 Films is not actually a media house, but rather a production house that's actually making money off of the filming that they're doing here inside courts. They were saying that, in fact, what 1010 Films should be doing is approaching traditional media houses like eNCA, the SABC, or Newsroom Africa to get the footage from the trial, because our role here, they were saying, is different to what they're doing here, saying that, in fact, they are profiting off of the filming of the trial. But the judge saying that, look, I hear your submissions. In fact, the judge was also quite critical, asking the lawyer for 1010 Films whether they plan on releasing any more episodes while the trial is still on. And after getting instructions, the lawyer said that there was no intention at this point to release any more episodes until the trial concludes. And so the judge then made a ruling to say that he can't kick anybody out until a formal application is made to try and get the docu-series producers out of the courtroom.
And now, of course, what everyone's going to be watching out for carefully today, mainstream media or not, Slee, is going to be the man who's going to have to answer questions about collecting evidence on the eve from the crime scene itself. Take me through what we can expect.
So finally, when we had about 45 minutes left of court time yesterday, we finally got back to the cross-examination of Thabo Mosia, the forensic officer who was the one collecting evidence on the night that Meyiwa was killed. You would remember the cross-examination actually started already last month, where we got a breakdown as to what time he was called, when he arrived on the scene. From what we understand, Meyiwa was shot at around 8 p.m. at night, and for the forensic officer, Thabo Mosia, was only called at around 11:45 that evening, which is about 4 hours later after the crime had actually taken place. And what the defense has already started alluding to is the fact that they believe that the crime scene was contaminated. And during their cross-examination last month, they had begun questioning Mosia on the fact that, did you not notice that the crime scene was possibly staged? Did you not think it was strange that you were called so late to the crime scene? scene, making him go detail by detail as to what time he was called, when he arrived, who met him there, how he was briefed, and how the crime scene was actually treated. And for the most part, Gareth, Thabo Mosia has been actually quite adamant that he did not believe that the crime scene was tampered with. But what is interesting is now the defense has introduced an alternative affidavit which was deposed from Mosia in 2019. This is 4 years after the crime actually took place. And in this particular statement, which I have actually seen, Thabo Mosia at the end of that statement says, because of the extended time frame in which, in terms of the time that had gone by before he had arrived at the crime scene, there was a possibility that it was contaminated. So I think what we're seeing now taking place is that the defense is starting to poke those holes in terms of the strength of the state's case against the 5 accused, and also showing what they believe to be the fact that the crime scene was contaminated and that the accused certainly cannot stand for the charges that they're facing right now.
Sandela Masakane, will be back to you again a little bit later as we watch very closely what's going to be happening inside court today.